We were staying in line, and one of my aunts, 23-year-old girl, was taking from my hand, placed in front of us, maybe in the distance like now, I'm sitting in front of you. This was the distance. And a German officer was taking out his handgun and just shoot without any emotion in front of us. After the shooting, it was shoot a lot of people then, he gave us a command and we were quiet. It was a silence, like a, silence of lambs, absolute silence. Then he was commanding us to get these killed people and put them in the graves. This beautiful lady, beautiful girl, will never have a wedding. She will never be under huppah with her groom. She will never born a beautiful son, and her beautiful son will never write books or play violin or investigate a drug against cancer. So they are just like sitting here, close to me, just here, people who are missing. I'm originally from Russia, from Belarus, Minsk. I was caught by Germans in July of '41 in a small town, almost a village. And in this place, terrible things happened. In small towns in Belarus and Ukraine and Russia, which were occupied by Germans, they organized small concentration camps, exact the same time as the big one, with wires around the house, with terrible things happened inside, with robbing and killing. If you want to know just one episode, is periodically people were on the plazas, standing in lines, and Germans were walking around trying to find whoever they liked and placed them in front of us, other people, and just killed them, cold-blooded, with a handgun, without any emotion, just like we were pheasants or any animals, without even a thought about that we are actually people. The whole goal was to make the whole world Juden-free, which means no Jews at all. Holocaust is not just killing, it's not just robbing, not just taking the things from people. It's a terminology completely wipe out a whole nation from the earth. And it's also true for other minorities, like gypsies, homosexuals, disabled people. They are not supposed to live on the earth.
I'm a native of Poland. I lived in a medium-sized city. It's in the center, located in the center of Poland, not far from Warsaw. I was a teenager. I was a high school student, age 15, when the war broke out, when Poland was invaded by German armies on September 1st, 1939. I remember it well, and I remember the day, the morning when the planes flew over and an unprepared Poland tried to bring them down with machine guns, I think, not much more. But I remember when the men were digging in our courtyard. We lived in an apartment in a large building with a courtyard. There was in the back a small orchard. And so the instructions that were given was to dig trenches. And the trenches were in a zigzag manner to prevent from being hit by the bombs, I imagine. So while the men were digging the trench, I was watching the plane and the little bullets flying in the sun, never reaching, of course, the planes. So Radom was occupied. Radom was the name of the town that I come from. As we know from history, in addition to fighting the war against the entire world, they had a secondary war, and that was a war against the Jews. So they were very strict in the beginning against the whole population. In addition to having to surrender guns, any weapons that anybody had. It got increasingly difficult, increasingly harsh measures. The effect was, immediate effect, it was economic, because everything was closed. There were no stores. People didn't have jobs, factories were closed, schools were closed. And besides that, it was hard to come by food. In April of '41, we were put in a ghetto. There was a ghetto in our city. The Jewish population of my city was about 25,000. And so we were in a smaller, very small section of the city where the ghetto was established. And we lived in very, very crowded conditions. All my family, my immediate and closely extended family, lived in Radom. It was a very trying period, and a period of a great fear. Although we didn't know, of course, at that time what was going to happen, which became much, much worse.
Our father is from Krakow in Poland, and in 1941 the family was forced to move into the Krakow ghetto. What we know is that very quickly afterwards, his 4 youngest siblings and his parents were probably taken to a death camp and probably murdered immediately. In March 13, 1943, the Krakow ghetto was liquidated, and everyone that was left there was moved to Auschwitz. So he went to Auschwitz. Very quickly from Auschwitz, camp number 1, he was moved to Birkenau, and he spent until June of 1944 in Birkenau. He then got moved to a different labor camp called Buna Monovich, which is also one of the sub-camps of Auschwitz. Towards the end of the war, the Nazis were moving themselves as well as prisoners in slave labor towards Germany, trying to get rid of a lot of the evidence. And so he went through one of the death marches that went from Auschwitz to Buchenwald. In June of 1945, he wrote what happened in the death march day by day. And it's of course a searing report to read. The odds are completely against you. You're walking in heavy snow. You're walking where the Nazis are shooting everyone who trails behind on the sides. He's already extremely hungry. And you know, some people just wanted to give up. The Nazis brought them one night to a particular factory area that was in open space and allowed them to, quote unquote, rest there for the night. And a lot of people already found places in the yard. So what he did, he could hardly find even a place to lie down, but he ended up finding a door, and he ended up covering himself with that door, and he was lying in the snow. And he recounts how he started to feel warm and he was falling asleep, and all of a sudden he realized that he's freezing to death. So he jumped up and he started to yell to the prisoners around him, wake up, because if you don't wake up, you will never wake up." He did not know when the death march will end, right? It's easy for us to take upon something very difficult when we know there is a period that it ends. But how do we get the strength to do something when it doesn't end? So this determination is something that I definitely got from him. You know, Holocaust doesn't start from some large decision to extinct people. It starts from saying something is wrong with them, something is wrong with everyone that is the same, like that of a certain color or a certain religion. And it starts from words of hatred and it grows to action of hatreds. And when we are aware and educated, we learn to detect this early and stop it early.
People need to know, and the young people who are growing now, who don't know nothing, but they still experiencing bullying, they need to know they need to stand up against the bullying, against discrimination of minorities, because it's kind of, it goes on and on and on. Don't be quiet. Stand up.